My undergrad was actually in biomedical engineering. I went to the University of Guelph, and then I came to the University of Calgary to do my master's, also in biomedical engineering. And then I drifted into computer science-y adjacent things and did my PhD in electrical and computer engineering. After that, I went and worked in oil and gas for a few years as a data scientist. And most recently, I hopped over to an academic position at Mount Royal in 2021. So I'm now an assistant professor in the Department of Math and Computing. And I guess what do I like the most about it is I'm constantly learning new things and trying new things.
I received my undergrad from the University of Waterloo in computer science. So after school, I basically worked at a startup. It was fully remote during COVID. After that, I started kind of like traveling while working. So did digital no, I was a digital nomad for a little bit. And then I worked at Palantir for a little bit as a consultant. And now I'm working at a startup. We're trying to do text to video games. So it's basically a tool. It's basically ChatGPT for video games. What I like the most about my job is it's just like the scope of things that you can build keeps increasing with like the technology advancements. So it's really kind of like the land of opportunities. So it's just so much to do. You never get bored.
So I started university at U of C in engineering. I actually switched to computer science 2 years in, and I ended up graduating with a bachelor's of science in computer science with a concentration in software engineering and human computer interaction and a minor in visual studies and art history. I actually started my career at the University of Calgary. I was a student software developer working on their website. I was really lucky to be able to get that position. So once I graduated, I started working as a software developer at a company called W Mode, which I continued for a few years and then eventually switched to Blackline Safety. Basically, just focusing on my technical skills in certain languages, certain technologies, and mostly my leadership skills. So finally, I moved into a software development team lead position, which I've been doing for the last 2 years. So, what I like about this job, I like that I get to do what I'm passionate about every day. I really love solving problems and I love saving lives. And Blackline Safety, as a team lead, is really I'm able to satisfy that basically. So, I love doing that every day. And I also really like growing my team members. So, that's something that's kind of new. I didn't think I would enjoy so much, but yeah, that's what I like most about my job.
Why did you decide to pursue a career in tech?
Started in tech because I like the diversity of the industries that you can do when you're working in tech. I originally wanted to start working on making cars actually, and ended up moving into lone worker safety. And I like that technology lets you work on really anything you want. So that really, really appealed to me. I also like that you're able to create anything you want with really just the touch of your fingers. You can do literally anything. I really enjoy just being able to think up an idea, even something I just want to do for fun for the weekend, and being able to just build it.
I was a little undecided in university, and it felt like tech opened the most doors. Initially, I wanted to study music, but it wasn't like well received by my family, so I just kind of like decided to do the next best thing. And the great thing about like technology is that you can apply it to literally anything. So I've worked on railway projects with Canadian Pacific, and also like analyze like hockey games with the university, and now I'm doing like game development. So it's just like there's so many things you can do, and if anything, you can always reconnect tech back to your passions. So like if you like music, you can build like music tools, and that's what I'll do eventually.
I originally went into engineering because I like math and problem solving, but I also really like making things. When you're programming something, you don't have to worry about messing up your materials or any kind of expenses associated with that. So I really find it leashes or unleashes your creativity because of the sort of limitless possibilities.
What does your typical workday consist of?
So right now I'm currently in a fully remote team. So it's very different whether like you're in office or remote. But for me, it's literally wake up, turn on the coffee machine and sit at my desk. And then usually we have meetings every other day. So like on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I'll have to like be up earlier. On Tuesday and Thursday, I usually can sleep in a little more. And then we'll have like a few touch points, kind of have like what we call a stand up. So essentially everyone just kind of gives an update on what they're working on. And then usually there will be like collaboration on like harder tasks, but in a remote position, usually like people are more independent and like we kind of like just separate the tasks well enough so that we don't have to do live collaboration.
Are there any available classes or events to learn coding? And are you required to learn coding before applying for a tech degree?
Yeah, so I'll just say for available things, for classes or events to learn coding, there is so much out there. You whether you want to do paid or you want to do free, there's things like Udemy, Coursera, whatever everybody's using nowadays to get their courses online. There's lots of resources, free resources as well, many tutorials that you can find online. Those are really great. You can kind of find anything that you're interested in, really. Meetups, there's meetups and boot camps everywhere if you want to actually go to something in person as well.
What do universities and employers look for? So maybe we focus more on the employer part for in technology applicants. And what can we do to make ourselves more competitive?
We don't really recruit students. Like Chaow said, it's pretty much just your grades in terms of whether you get into university, at least at the undergrad level. If you are interested in pursuing like a master's or a PhD, then I would say the biggest thing is demonstrating interest and just, putting yourself out there and talking to professors that you're interested in working with, making sure you, understand what their research is, and just showing that you are keen and want to learn, and that you're not just there for, I guess, extrinsic motivation factors.
You guys have any tips to stay motivated? Or
really the biggest tip is to just stay curious, I think, for me. So it can be really easy to get stuck on a problem and get frustrated and not want to continue with it. I find for me, when I lose motivation, that's definitely the main reason. But it can be an opportunity as well. So trying to just stay curious, like, okay, I can't solve this problem with the way I normally think about it. So how else could I think about solving this problem? What other resources could I do? And use it as a way of exploring maybe areas that you haven't done before, getting excited.
Learning with ChatGPT is actually like an extremely like good way of cutting down on the dry stuff. Like a lot of times when you're looking at documentation, it's super dry. You don't know what it's talking about. You don't know what's important. So one way that I learned kind of like how to use front end was I had an idea of an app that I wanted to build. So I just kind of like start with the most simple like app that I can make. And then I just simply ask ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, like, what are the tools that I need to learn in order to like make this, right? And the thing with ChatGPT is that it's easy to like fall into a pattern where you're kind of just copying code over, and that's like the wrong way to use ChatGPT. But if you use it as kind of like a tool to kind of like a personal like kind of a personal teacher, yeah, you can just ask questions, drill down on concepts, and just doing that over and over again, you'll just get better, and you gain momentum building stuff. So you just want to keep learning.
How important is networking in the computer science industry? And what are effective ways to build a professional network?
It's always great to build your network. You never know where your interests may lie in a couple years, who you meet that you may want to work with. And even some people you meet might give you some ideas of places you've never thought about in the industry that you might want to work. For example, before I worked at Blackline Safety, I'd never really thought of lone worker safety as an industry. And until I met somebody who actually worked there, I didn't consider it as something I might want to do. So where would you network? Places like meetups are a really great place. At these places you can actually learn, meet people in many different industries, ones that you're focused in.
I would say the big new one from my perspective is everything data related. So when I first started working in my previous job, we were called the applications or algorithms development team or something like that. I can't remember what they called us, but then we rebranded around about 2017 as the data science team, because that was, every company needs a data science team. And so at the time, my team was made up of my boss was a physicist with mathematicians, statisticians. Um, there was a couple engineers, we were sort of this mishmash of people who have mathy type backgrounds, and we were doing data science. So now data science is actually becoming a degree program that you can do as a major.
Can you name at least one skill that's important to have in order to succeed in the tech field?
Having a low ego is definitely one. A lot of times you're working with people who are extremely smart. Yourself, you're very qualified for your job. And you'll like spend, 2 weeks, 3 weeks working on a feature in your little cave. And then you show it to people and then they're like, hey, like, this is not what we want. Like, this is bad, right? You kind of need to like take a step back and distance yourself from your work and not attach any importance to like who made it, but more like be attached to the problem. So yeah, at the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem and not like force a solution onto like a problem. So yeah, definitely having low ego, being asking questions, being humble and like truthful as well, not pretending that you know stuff that you don't.
I always find if you're passionate about what you're doing, then it is a lot easier to wake up and go to work in the morning. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice. The other one is always try to keep an open mind. If you're given a problem, don't just think about it from the level of detail. Try to think bottom up and top down. It's going to make everything in life a lot easier if you're thinking about it from different perspectives.
But essentially, one thing to take into account if you want to have like higher salaries is that the best way to do that is to actually switch companies and not like do promotions within the company. So people in the industry call that a diagonal promotion. So I've been through that twice now, and it's like big bumps. Definitely something to keep in mind if that's something you'd like.
Learn time management skills. Don't leave your assignments to the last minute. If you're taking 5 classes, it's probably not a good idea to also work 30 hours a week at your, night job. And take notes. That's something that for some reason students don't do. A lot of times I feel like I'm like a movie and they're just watching me. And really programming, so I know this applies to everything, but it's not a spectator sport. You're not going to get better at video games by watching Twitch streams, and you're not going to get better at programming by just watching your professor do stuff. So